You're listening to the best of American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
News of the day.
Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
With values that never die.
There are certainly a lot of controversies or scandals brewing right now when it comes to the Obama administration.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Dealing with the federal government is not always high-tech, and it's not always user-friendly.
The stories that matter.
This is a massive escalation in the tension here in Egypt.
The issues that count.
I don't know why the media tries to make this into a sensation. We have never hidden the fact that we supply Syria with weapons.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
He's got the red, white, blue flying high on a farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm.
Welcome to American Heartland with Dr. Grace. You can tell by my voice, it's obviously not Dr. Grace. It's not even close to Dr. Grace. It's the opposite gender of Dr. Grace. It's not, unless you thought maybe I was a transgender or a transsexual or something, but let that go. It's Jeff Cooner, Boston's bulldozer, filling in for Dr. Grace, the genius, I call her. The brains in our family. Full disclosure, not only am I a radio talk show host on WRKO, as many of you know, up in Boston and the greater Boston area in New England, but I'm also the very happy husband, the hubby of Dr. Grace. She's not feeling well. She's been battling a cold, so I'm going to be filling in for this week's show. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about. But clearly, when it comes to the week in review, the big story, BB did it, baby. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, pulled off an absolute stunning comeback. Many of the polls had him neck and neck with the leftist opposition, the Zionist Union. Many in the American media were openly rooting for Bibi to go down. The Obama administration wanted him to go down. The dear leader, President Barack Hussein Obama, almost made it a personal project of his. He sent his top campaign people to help the leftist opposition. There is now increasing revelations that Obama illegally has been funneling taxpayer dollars, that he funneled it for the last month in the campaign to help finance, fund, and aid the leftist opposition, meddling, interfering in the internal affairs of Israel, of Israel's democracy, in a deliberate attempt to subvert the election and defeat his public enemy number one, Benjamin Netanyahu, otherwise known as Bibi. And what is absolutely remarkable is that contrary to all the prognosticators in the liberal non-mainstream media, contrary to everything claimed by the White House, everything liberal pundits around the world were hoping for, please, don't let Bibi win this election. The Israelis want change. Get rid of that warmonger. Get rid of that nationalist. Get rid of that man who dared stand up to the president in a speech to Congress and call him out on his disastrous deal with Iran that will pave the path to a nuclear bomb for the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran. Finally, the West has found a champion. Finally, someone had, as the Spanish would say, the cojones to stand up and criticize the dear leader. And for this, Obama, the petulant, arrogant, petty, spoiled child that he is, the Sun King, who is so drunk with power, so consumed with hubris and pride, this wannabe dictator who cannot stand any criticism or any opposition, vowed revenge upon Bibi and upon Bibi's blatant attempt to stand up to him and scuttle this disastrous deal with Iran. Yet, against all the odds, Bibi Netanyahu not only won, he won big. It was not even close. He won with 30 seats in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. He now has enough support among nationalist religious parties to form the next governing coalition. In essence, Bibi took on not only the left, he took on the Obama machine and the president personally, and he beat him. And the liberal media in this country, the water carriers for the dear leader, could not hide their disappointment, their anger, and their frustration. Listen to ABC News with their reportage about Bibi's stunning victory in the Israeli elections. Roll it, Britain.
Overseas, an election shocker this morning with major implications here at home. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has mounted a surprise comeback, pulling off what appears to be a resounding win. ABC's Alex Marquardt is here to explain what this means for Mideast peace process and U.S. nuclear talks with Iran. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Amy. This is a stunning victory for Netanyahu, a landslide that none of the polls had predicted. You can be sure there's a lot of disappointment at the White House this morning, realizing they have to try to work with Netanyahu for the next 2 years, a man who has been such a thorn in their sides, and that is unlikely to change anytime soon, with Netanyahu this week coming out against a Palestinian state after the Obama administration has worked so hard on a peace process.
No, he's been such a thorn in the side of the dear leader. Oh my God, no. Oh, and during the campaign, Bibi pulling out all the stops with 1 week left, with the polls showing it neck and neck. He did, frankly, what any good politician does. And for some reason, he's now being condemned for this. He's now being decried as a racist, as a bigot, as some kind of Jewish chauvinist, because he spoke out against a Palestinian state. Why would the Jewish Prime Minister of Israel, knowing full well that if you give the Palestinians a state, it will be Hamas that will run it, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which would be presumably the capital of an independent Palestinian state. Hamas has called for the destruction of Israel. It's right there in their constitution, in their charter. The Palestinians have never been interested in peace. That is the big lie that has been peddled by the left and by the liberals in this country for decades. Yasser Arafat never wanted peace. Fatah doesn't want peace. Hamas doesn't want peace. What they want, as they have said repeatedly, is death to Israel and to push all the Jews into the sea, to drive them into the sea. They don't want some Palestinian state on the West Bank and Gaza. What they want is all of Israel, because they believe that the Jews of Israel are sitting on Arab Palestinian land. That's what they teach their kids. That's what they teach in the schools. That's what they say in all their newspapers. That's what they say in speech after speech in front of audience after audience after audience. So who are we kidding? And so Netanyahu just said, hey, look, forget this fiction of a peace process. Let me be honest with you. The peace process is only interested in a process. That's what it is, a process. A way for people to keep making a lot of money and pretend that somehow in this negotiation, at this conference, in this city, in this European capital, with everybody making money and everybody spending money on this elaborate affair, that somehow we're going to reach some kind of a long-term deal based on a two-state solution. There can never be a two-state solution because the Palestinians are only interested in one-state solution. a Palestinian state all the way to the Mediterranean, with Tel Aviv and Jerusalem completely ethnically cleansed of all Jews. So they want to destroy him. What is there to negotiate? But you can see the disappointment in the liberal media. Oh, my God. He's been such a thorn in the side. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What is the president going to do? Oh, the dear leader. Listen now to CBS. Listen to how CBS... I mean, this guy, I think he's going to jump off a building. I think he's going to commit Harry Carey. I think he's going to commit suicide right there. He was so... No, the dear leader lost. No, how come he lost? Why did Bibi win? Why? Roll it, Brittany.
In American political parlance, you can call him the comeback kid. He trailed in the opinion polls, but won the only poll that matters, the vote. We face great diplomatic and security challenges, he warned his supporters. First, the victory, then the victory kiss with his wife, Sarah. You have given me much strength, he said. It was an election that saw an enormous turnout of almost 72%. Even a bride took time to vote. The morning after was good for some, like Eli Netanyahu, who runs a stall at Tel Aviv's Carmel Market. He will take care of security, he told us. He will only go to war when we really need to. But others had hoped for someone new who would jumpstart an economy where prices are high, and many feel the chance for a good life, even being able to buy an apartment, is slipping away.
It's gone.
Maura Grossman had a hard time hiding her disappointment.
I wanted to change.
What change?
Just to have a better economic situation here in Israel and better security issues. And now we're faced with the same government, so...
This is a tough break for President Obama. Netanyahu wants to torpedo the American-led effort in an Iranian nuclear weapons deal, and he now says he opposes a separate Palestinian state, a major stumbling block in any Mideast effort at peace.
Netanyahu won. No. He's going to torpedo an Iranian deal. Oh, my God, a major stumbling block. He's opposed to a Palestinian state. Oh, my God, what's the dear leader going to do? Oh, my God. The Iranian deal, let us be very clear about this, is a dagger aimed at the heart of the Jews of Israel and eventually us here in the United States. It is an absolute sellout. It is appeasement at its absolute worst. It will give the mullahs the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. And on the ballot was not so much the leftist opposition. On the ballot was Obama. And he openly campaigned for the leftist leader, Isaac Herzog. Obama said, you keep Netanyahu, it will destroy American-Israeli relations. He let it be known. His people funded the opposition. They ran the campaign of the opposition, and essentially Bibi defeated Obama. And my friends, the larger point is this. Bibi ran as a conservative. He ran as a free market guy. He ran as a conservative, as a nationalist who will stand up to the Iranians and defend and put Israel first. And have you noticed, whenever conservatives run as conservatives, they win. Whether it be in Israel, whether it be Scott Walker in Wisconsin, who ran against Obama not once, not twice, but 3 times and won. Whether it be the Republicans in 2010 or the Republicans in 2014. In other words, conservatism is a winning philosophy and a winning formula. And if the Israelis can practice it, and if Netanyahu can practice it, my only question is, why can't John Boehner and Mitch McConnell here? My friends, what we need in the United States of America more than ever is an American Bibi. someone who's willing to stand up to Obama and take it to him with no apologies. Jeff Cooner, sitting in for the Dr. Grace here on American Heartland. Don't touch that dial.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
You're listening to the best of American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Well, it's becoming a signature song on this show for Hillary Clinton. Oops, she did it again. More scandalous information coming out. There's a report conducted by an inspector general that cites favoritism for Terry McAuliffe, a very, very close confidant and colleague of the Clintons, and Hillary's brother. And the report blasts the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, for, quote-unquote, creating an appearance of favoritism and special access as a result of unusual steps he took while serving as Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration. Basically, what does this report say? It says that Mayorkas expedited visas to folks that Hillary Rodham Clinton's brother wanted a visa given to because it would be good for his business interests. And the report also says that Mayorkas was involved in trying to win funds for an electric car company called Green Tech Automotive. And he was working with McAuliffe to try to win these funds. What does all of this amount to? It amounts to what we know the Clintons doing. Breaking laws, getting around rules in order to give special deals to family members and friends. The Clintons are known for that. They've been doing it since their days in Arkansas. Now, Hillary has been in the news, and it's all been bad news for her for weeks. From all the information coming out about what she has done with the Clinton Foundation, money being taken by foreign governments, by the Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State. Emails destroyed after she left office. Forms that she was required to sign saying that she had given back all government documents. No, she didn't sign them. All of this amounting to the Clintons doing what they've been doing for years. You know what that is? Committing white-collar crime to enrich themselves. And they've gotten away with it. That is how pathetic we as a republic have become. Is that we are allowing these criminals to run rampant. And we are allowing this kind of thing that I just talked to you about, which is nothing other than crony capitalism. It's destroying us, folks. It's eating us from the inside out. That's what this is doing. And you know what? While we're being devoured by these criminals, you know what Hillary Clinton is doing? She's laughing. Laughing at you and laughing at me. Listen to this.
I am all about new beginnings. A new grandchild, another new hairstyle, a new email account. Why not a new relationship with the press? So here goes. No more secrecy. No more zone of privacy. After all, what good did that do me?
You know, this is a PR playbook. This is what you do when you're involved in a scandal. You destroy the evidence. You come forward with a press conference in which you don't say that you're sorry. You don't actually take on full responsibility, but you state that you could have done things a little bit different, which is what she did. Then you come out with statements saying the matter has been looked into and it's been resolved. And then you start making light of it. Like it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big issue. Also to imply it's already in the past. It's already behind us. Behind us to the point that we can laugh about it. No, I'm sorry. It's not behind us. It's right in front of us. And it's peering into our future if she becomes the leader of the Democratic Party and, God forbid, the leader of this country. It is incumbent upon every single one of us to keep this drumbeat alive. I'm not done with your emails. Those emails belong to me. They belong to you. Those are the people's emails. She was working as Secretary of State. She's the one that blurred the lines by having an email that had both the personal and the public. And you see how convoluted the whole thing is? What about those emails that involved her brother and everything that her brother was doing? Is that a personal email or a public email? You know what? It's a public servant misbehaving. And that's why she deleted 30,000. It is up to all of us to tell Hillary Clinton, this is no laughing matter. Don't you joke about this. No more secrecy. No more zone of privacy. As though she's come clean and answered all the questions. You know, in that press conference that she gave when she explained that she had a private email server, she didn't even take many questions. She hasn't even begun to answer our questions on all of this. And she hasn't even begun to answer our questions on what she did and what she knew and when she knew it on Benghazi. And that's a situation in which other people died. This is no laughing matter. And you know, my producer said as we're coming in from the break, I can't believe the press was laughing with her. I can't believe that the press is letting her getting away with it. What we do know is some members of the press are investigating her. Even the left-wing press, some members of the left-wing press are investigating. And you know why that is? That is because there is a rupture in the Democratic Party right now. There's a fissure. We know because Ed Klein reported in the New York Post. Guess who the source of all those leaks have been? Who was in the know while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State? Who had so much damaging information that has recently come forward? Obama did, and Valerie Jarrett did. And Ed Klein reported in the New York Post that the source of so much of this bad news for Hillary Clinton is coming from Valerie Jarrett. So there's a fissure in the Democratic Party, and that rupture is the reason that, at least for now, you have pieces in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, where some journalists are saying to Hillary Clinton, this is no laughing matter. One journalist in particular, Ron Fournier, has been very strong. This is no laughing matter. This is serious. This should force her out as a candidate. This should put her behind bars, I'm saying. However, this week, guess who went to the White House and had a private meeting with Barack Obama? Hillary Clinton. I wish I could have been there. I'm sure you all wish you could have been there. But I can take a lucky guess that she definitely told him all these leaks coming from Valerie Jarrett, they better stop. Because if those leaks don't stop, I've got information I can unload on you. So despite all the pretenses about Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Clinton being one big happy family, we know that right now they're at war with one another as the Democratic Party is in a very deep divide. This is Dr. Grace holding Hillary Clinton's feet to the fire.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
You're listening to the best of American Heartland with Dr. Grace. You're listening to the best of American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Welcome to American Heartland. This is Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at WorldTribune.com. It is Easter weekend, my favorite holiday of the year. I love Easter because it's springtime and, more important, because of the Christian meaning of the celebration. To truly be Christian is to revel in Easter. And Easter brings me so much joy. It is my distinct honor and pleasure on this Easter weekend to welcome my good friend, the esteemed Renaissance man, radio host, and best-selling author, Carl Gallups. Carl, welcome to the broadcast.
Dr. Grace, thank you so much. You're very kind in your introduction. God bless you.
Well, I want to tell the folks out there who may not know that you have written some books that have been really runaway bestsellers. They need to get a hold of these books. You wrote The Magic Man in the Sky, The Rabbi Who Found Messiah, and now today, this is what we're going to talk about today. It's your latest book, Final Warning, which, as you told me before you got on the air, is ranked really high on Amazon. It's number one on Amazon, and it's in its third printing. So people are just picking this up. It's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, Dr. Grace, I'm blown away and humbled, and I give all the credit to the Lord because I really feel like that He put His hand on this book and inspired me to write it. It's a product of 25 years of preaching, teaching, and research, and a lot of peer review, so it's not something I pulled out of my back pocket. It's not meant to be some sensational fluff piece just to sell books. It really is people that are reading it are reading it through are really giving it rave reviews, and I praise God for it. But yeah, it's only been out a month, and I think maybe a couple of weeks now, a month and a half. It's already in its third printing, getting ready to go to its fourth printing. It has been out of stock on Amazon for over 3 weeks. It went into the top 100 of all 17 million books on Amazon and stayed there for days. It was ranked number 61 out of all the books on Amazon. It's ranked number one bestseller in 5 different categories on Amazon. So people all over the world are getting it. In fact, and that's not an exaggeration. I got a call from a friend of mine, who's from Europe, but he's in China a lot, and he is connected to the underground church in China. And scores of congregations, large congregations, and he said the preachers and teachers in China, many of them are preaching and teaching from my book, from the pulpit, and he's been in services when that has been done, and people have been saved. And so,
wow, this is incredible. And I want to just explain to the audience a little bit why Carl Gallups is so unique. He is really unique because he's been a pastor for years. He's a longtime senior pastor at the Hickory Hammock Baptist Church in Florida. And he's also an astute student, an astute analyst of contemporary affairs. And so it's rare to have that kind of dual knowledge, both of the Bible in the depth that you know it, and also to be so skilled in contemporary affairs. And I think this book is so original because you're saying, do we see signs today that prove that revelations are accurate, right?
Yeah. The book of Revelation particularly is what I focus on, and it's not just another book on Revelation. This one has astounding, and I'm going to say even sensational revelations in it from the book of Revelation, but everything that I say in the book is backed up by impeccable resources. I'm talking about National Geographic and mainstream media, science journals, history journals, military journals, language departments of major universities, and of course contextual biblical study and respected commentators and theologians, etc. But so it's not just some preacher going on a rant about Revelation, but what I have discovered in the last 25 years, and I've watched it continually unfold just to my shock as I felt like I was onto something, there are key words coded into the book of Revelation throughout that seemed odd for 2,000 years. In other words, there are places where it says, and the name of this event is Wormwood. Right? There was a name there. And the name of this person that does this is Apollyon or Abaddon. This occurs on the Euphrates River. This happens here. This looks like this. This happened here. And so there's some keys. I mean, Revelation is 22 chapters long, so there's a lot of material, and it's written in highly symbolic and cryptic language, because you got to remember, Dr. Grace, this guy John that wrote it under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, he's on a rock prison camp island on Patmos in the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. They're still riding camels back then, Dr. Grace. So how does a man who's thrust into our lifetime and beyond, how do you describe, when you're riding camels and walking everywhere you go, how do you describe Apache attack helicopters and tanks and nuclear weaponry and massive armies of tanks and helicopters and heavy equipment rolling across the desert floor? How do you describe scenery like perhaps 800 oil wells set on fire and nuclear plant explosions and nuclear bombs and skyscrapers and cities and interstate highways and airplanes and technology, internet and computers? I mean, how do you describe that? That would look like science fiction to him, but it's all everyday life for us. We take for granted cell phones and satellite television and on and on and on, but yet those things are all alluded to in the Scriptures, and particularly in the book of Revelation. And how do we know that? Is it just because some preacher wants to think he sees these allusions? No, because John was told, scattered throughout Revelation, write this down. The name of this is so-and-so. And so for 2,000 years, people have guessed and tried to figure out, well, what does that mean? And they've come up with all fanciful interpretations. But what I've discovered in our historical lifetime, these key words have specific correlations to events that have happened in our world and in our historical lifetime.
Mm-hmm. And particularly in the 20th and the 21st centuries, you're seeing like an acceleration of the events that were foretold in Revelations. You're seeing an acceleration of that in our time.
Yes, a huge acceleration. And by the way, that's another biblical fact. I mean, even Jesus spoke of, and the Scriptures speak of the feeling of the speeding up of time, and time will be shortened, and for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short, et cetera, et cetera. There are all kind of allusions to, these things will come like a flood, the Bible says. So there are all kinds of allusions in the Scriptures that as it gets closer and closer to the return of the Lord, that these things will start cramming in together. They will speed up. There will be less and less distance between the fulfilling of these prophecies. So, but I want your listeners to know, I'm not a date setter. I'm not a sensationalist. I'm a senior pastor of a good, solid, strong Baptist church for 28 years in one church on the Gulf Coast. I've preached all over the world, continue to. As you said, I've got 3 runaway best-selling books that are known all over the world. I preach in conferences, and I'm all over Christian TV and radio. So I'm not some nut tucked away in a dark corner somewhere. As you know, I've got a radio show with a huge national audience. Been on the radio as a talk show host for 12, 13 years. And that doesn't make me right in everything I say, but I'm just giving those credentials so your audience will know that I'm not just some little nut tucked away in a corner spouting off sensational things. Again, this book is the result of 25 years of research and studying, and I didn't want to put it out there because I knew I'd take a lot of heat from people who don't understand these things and from unbelievers, and I knew I would even take some heat from the Christian world because there are so many different views of eschatology. But I put it out there. God really was all over me, I feel, and I did it, and the proof is in the pudding, so they say. I mean,
right. And when you say you're not a date setter, so
No.
when your book is titled "Final Warning," so what is the final warning, and how do you contrast that title with you saying, well, you're not saying the last days are upon us. You're not actually saying that.
Well, I'm saying that the last days are upon us, but I'm not saying, I mean, that could be what? I mean, after 2,000 years of Revelation history, I mean, the last days could still be 100 years away or 200 years away. But so I am saying the last days are upon us, and I think those days started with the rebirth of Israel. And I make a big point of that in my book, but there are many other things that come right behind that have been fulfilled in our lifetime. So I do believe we're living in what I call the trumpet days. The trumpets of heaven are blowing. I mean, God is sending His warnings to the church, to His people that, look, it's getting close. It's getting time. It's time to get serious. And again, I tie a lot of those into key words. But I don't set dates. I don't say, okay, this fall at the Feast of Trumpets or the Feast of Tabernacles, the end is coming and Jesus is returning. You know, I've never done that. I don't do that, but I do look at the signs of the times. I know the Scriptures. I know them well. And I'm also, as you said, an analyzer of contemporary events and an analyzer of history and an analyzer of especially geopolitical events that seem to have prophetic ties to them. So when you look at all of these things and tie them together, yes, I would say I believe that we're living in very prophetic times. We're living in the final days. And by the way, when I say final, Dr. Grace, people that are listening that don't know the Lord especially might really be terrified by that pronouncement, and even those that do, that don't understand the word on this. So I want your audience to understand, when I say final, I don't mean the end of everything. I mean the end of man's wicked rule and reign. Dr. Grace, who wouldn't love to see an end to lying and hypocrisy and cheating and stealing and war and raping and murder and pollution and crime and corruption? And who would love to see a paradise restored, if you will, with Jesus Christ ruling and reigning and with all things being made new? I mean, so when I say final, I'm talking about the finality of man's filthy wickedness, murderous rule and reign, and the beginning of the righteous reign of Jesus Christ. Of course, only those that that know the Lord and have believed God and His Word, will participate in that future glory. But that's what I mean. So when I speak of the last days or the final days, I'm not running around crying the sky is falling, wringing my hands, saying, it's just doom and gloom. Well, we've got some tough days ahead of us, according to the Word of God, because of man's wickedness. But when I speak of the final days, I'm speaking of the final days of man's wickedness and the beginning of the righteous rule of Jesus Christ.
And what is the role of the United States in all of this? Is the U.S. mentioned in biblical prophecy?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. That's a question that we could take hours. I mean, there are whole prophecy conferences that are done on that topic, so I'm going to give my little 3-minute answer, and I know some of your listeners who have studied on this for years, they're going to think this is a shallow answer, but I have to be because of radio. As I said, we could talk about this for hours, but here's my 3-minute answer. It's kind of divided into two parts. First of all, there really is no place in Scripture that specifically mentions the United States by name or specific allusion. However, there are many Bible prophecy experts and teachers of the Word, searchers of the Word, that do believe that they might see shadows of the United States. That is, speaking of a powerful empire in the last days, a power that's like any other power the world has ever seen. There are allusions to a nation that's represented by an eagle with outstretched wings. A lot of commentators and Bible theologians have seen that, and other allusions to possibly the United States. But that's part one of it. And again, I gave a 1-minute answer to an hour-long conference where I would be turning to all the Scriptures and analyzing each one. But the other part of the answer is this. Listen, regardless of whether the United States is specifically mentioned in prophecy, here are things we cannot deny. The United States is unique above every nation that has ever been birthed in the history of the world. It's unique in its founding. It's unique in its flavor. its unique in its appeal to the world. We're the only nation in the world that has to build fences to keep millions of people every year out who are trying to flood and crash down our borders, because we have some semblance of hope, some semblance of freedom and protection, some semblance of an opportunity to live a life that's halfway human in living. And so we're the only nation to purposely found our founding documents upon the Word of God, the Judeo-Christian principles, and our founding fathers wrote about that and backed that up. We're the only nation in history to do that. Plus, God has certainly used us. We have been used of the Lord, whether we're mentioned in Scriptures by any kind of specific allusion or not. We've been used of the Lord to take the gospel to the world. We're the most benevolent nation in the world. We send more Christian missionaries out. We produce more Christian literature and distribute it around the world than any nation in history has ever done. On top of that, we were used to rebirth the nation of Israel. We were used by God, I believe, to end World War I, to end World War II. Of course, we invented nuclear technology, good or bad, but all of that figures into prophecy as well. And we were used, as I said, not only to rebirth Israel, but to protect her all of these years until now. Mm-hmm. And so now we're getting into some prophetic images of even the United States seems to be turning its back on God's prophetic rebirth nation of Israel, which theologians have been seeing for decades. Mm-hmm. That day was coming when the Scripture speaks of all the nations of the world would basically abandon Israel so that she could be attacked by her enemies.
Wow. Brilliant. Absolutely.
History have said, how could this happen with America? America would never do that, but here we are.
Right. As you can see, this is the reason that Final Warning is a runaway bestseller. You're going to want to buy this book. The question that Gallup so brilliantly answers is, how do the events of the 20th and the 21st century relate to what the Apostle John wrote in Revelations several thousand years ago? Amazing work, brilliant analysis today on the air with us, Carl. It's always a pleasure to have you. Where can folks buy this book?
Oh, it's available anywhere where good books are sold, but of course the big places, Amazon.com, and it's very easy just to remember this, Gallups.com, Gallups, and that takes you straight to the publishers, WND Books out of Washington, D.C. All of my books are published by them. They're a major publisher. You can go to Gallups.com, see all of my works, order them there, get autographed copies there, or go to Amazon. They are sold out on Amazon, but they're basically sold out everywhere right now. But go ahead and put your order in, and as soon as the publisher gets them to those distributors, they'll ship right to you.
Wonderful work, Gallups. I am so impressed by this Renaissance man. He's also the host of Freedom Fridays with Carl Gallups every Friday on WEBY. You're going to want to listen to his show as well. Thank you for being with us, and happy Easter to you and your whole family, Carl.
Same to you, Dr. Grace. God bless you, and pray you guys have a wonderful Resurrection Sunday, and give my love to your family. Thank you for having me on today.
Sure will. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to that. I'm inspired by his knowledge, and like I said, that is a must-read book. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that never die.
Yeah, and when all my strength is gone, and you I can be strong.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
You're listening to the best of American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, 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 just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, oh no, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut it up, just shut up, shut up. We try to take it slow.
Well, this Just Shut Up segment kind of breaks my heart, to be honest with you. I am generally a fan of Pat Buchanan. He gave in the 90s one of the most brilliant speeches I ever heard in my life. It shaped my worldview. It really helped me to consolidate who I was going to be as a conservative activist. And yet, on the issue of how to deal with Iran, he and I are at odds. And he is at odds with Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity and he had a fight on the airs. It was real fireworks. And you're going to hear Hannity saying that we should not be negotiating with the Iranians, and Buchanan arguing that, in fact, we must do so. And in many ways, we can find areas of common ground and ways to collaborate with them. Listen to this.
The reason Iran's is going to be a power in the Gulf is because your president, George W. Bush, invaded Iraq and turned it into an ally of Iran.
Me, Pat, if you're going to bring it up, point out that the surge worked and Bush's admonition in 2000. Hang on. And this 2007, if the admonition of keeping intelligence and training troops on the ground were met by Obama, we wouldn't be in this position, would we?
Sean, the reason we're in this position is because Saddam Hussein, a thug, was overthrown, his state was destroyed, his army was broken up, elections were held by Bush, democracy crusade, and the Shia won, we lost Iraq.
You believe that we can make a deal with the Iranians. You believe peace with the Iranians in our time. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not scared of Iran, for God's sakes. They don't have an atomic bomb.
Now you sound like Obama. Iran is a tiny country. They're not a threat. You believe that?
Bibi's sitting on 200 atom bombs, and he's fretting over Iran, which hasn't even produced weapons-grade uranium.
And this is going to create an arms race that the likes of which the world has never seen before. With one distinction, Pat. Now you're putting nuclear weapons in the hands of radical Islamic mullahs. You really want that? You don't see that as a danger?
The United States could finish off Iran in an afternoon. What are you frightened of, Sean?
Okay.
You know, this is really disappointing because I think Pat Buchanan in this segment, he is mouthing almost the talking points of the Obama administration. His view of the Iraq war is the view of the Obama administration, where they're saying it's Bush's fault, instead of the truth of the matter, which is that Bush did what he needed to do, and we had secured victory until this president, the nincompoop in chief, decided to withdraw all American troops contrary to the advice of the generals. And you got to bear in mind that Barack Obama himself had said that Iraq was stable. So we had achieved stability. We had achieved an impossible dream. A stable democracy in the Middle East that would have transformed the Middle East had it not been for the nincompoop in chief. And then afterwards, to compound matters, Obama is now willing to negotiate with the Iranians, even when the Israelis are begging him not to do it. And Buchanan is saying, look, we need the Iranians because the Iranians now are helping us in our battle against ISIS. And we can find a lot of areas of common ground with them. You know what, Pat Buchanan? That's making a pact with the devil. You know what they say about sleeping with the devil, right? When you get in bed with him, you know what ultimately you're going to have to do? That's not good for the United States of America. We don't want to make a pact with the devil. We should never have been in this situation. And if we need other troops to do our bidding there are the Kurds, there are the Iraqis. But you know what? We should never have left, and we should be back there. That's been my position the whole time. That's going to be the conclusion we're going to have to come to. It's only a matter of time. Well, he said in that clip that you heard, you know, what are we afraid of? The Iranians. We could finish them off in an afternoon. But in his very own column, a column that he wrote on March 27 called The Enemy of My Enemy, he states, Americans don't want another war in the Middle East with a nation 3 times the size of Iraq. So you know what, Pat Buchanan? We can't finish them in an afternoon. We couldn't finish Iraq in an afternoon, could we? And what I really want to say to Pat Buchanan is this. Imagine that you are an Israeli. If you're truly not afraid of the Iranians getting a nuclear bomb, live in Israel. I want you to tell me how it feels to live in a state where daily you are told by all your neighbors, we will destroy you. We're coming to destroy you. We're going to use any means possible to destroy you. And now they're negotiating with the Americans to get the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. I want you to sit in an Israeli cafe and tell me that you're not as alarmed as the Israelis are, as Bibi Netanyahu is, as anybody that has any common sense is. I'm sorry to say this. It breaks my heart, Pat Buchanan, but this week you've earned it. Just shut up. Hey, well, you know me. I'm a happy-go-lucky, optimistic person, so I like to find the good. That's just me. And in our grab bag today, I have a couple of clips that I want you to hear. You all know that I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. And growing up in Montreal, Canada, we all fell in love with a 12-year-old singer by the name of Celine Dion. She captured our hearts as, when I was residing there. And for myself and many of my girlfriends, we still consider her the best vocalist of our time. I've seen her in concerts many, many times, and I'm just blown away by her talent, her grace, and her poise. She has been married to René Angélil for decades. And in fact, she has said in interviews very openly, even though he's much older than her, this is the only man I've ever been with. This is the only man I've ever known. He was her manager when she was very young. Well, as it turns out, René Angélil has been diagnosed with throat cancer. And she took some time to stop all her work to be with him. And recently, she discovered, as you'll hear in this interview, this really tear-filled interview, that the love of her life, the man that she's been with for decades, the father of her 3 children, her manager, her partner, her confidant, was diagnosed with throat cancer once again.
It was December 17th, and I will never forget because it was a wedding anniversary and I was rehearsing for The Voice, and after the rehearsal I went back in my dressing room and I saw him looking pretty devastated and shocked, and I was like, what's going on? And he sat down and he said, I have cancer again. The doctor just called me and I have cancer again. And at that moment, honestly, my heart started to beat faster, but my body shut off. And I was like, I'm going to go put makeup on, and I'm going to go sing Incredible, and I'm going to forget how I feel right now.
Incredible!
What a remarkable woman. And in that interview, she explains that she feeds her husband through a feeding tube 3 times a day now. He can't speak and he needs her help. He's in really, really bad shape. And she even gets her children to participate in that so that they're not scared of the state that their dad is currently in. Well, she has announced that she will go back on the stage in the summer, and for many reasons. One of them is she and he want to continue to live as much as they possibly can. Roll it.
Millions of people in the world, they go through this drama. And a lot of them, even worse, they don't even have time to say goodbye. And you know what? I'm amazed how fortunate we are. I think the fact that I've had this open book type of personality and share it all, it's me. It's the person I am. I think it helped me in my life to sing my songs better.
Now she'll sing those powerful lyrics again with a new understanding of love and devotion. Celine announcing she's taking the stage once again starting August 27th.
Well, our heartfelt prayers go out to Celine Dion, her children, and her husband as they deal with this devastating ordeal. You know, when she gave that interview, it took me back to a very sad day in May of 2006. I was actually a professor at Howard University, and I got a call in between classes. I took that call. It was my sister telling me that my mom was diagnosed with oral cancer. And I can relate so much to what Celine Dion said. Everything stopped for me at that moment. And yet I had to go back into the classroom and perform. And I did, and I don't know how I did, and I managed to deliver that lecture. And then for the next couple of years, my life literally stopped as I dropped everything to be by her side until the very end. Well, my heartfelt prayers go out to that graceful woman, Celine Dion, and her family. I'm thinking of you on this Easter weekend, and I also applaud you for standing by your man, putting everything on hold to take care of him, and in whatever days and months you have left, living life together to the fullest. Hey, everybody, I want to wish you all a really happy, loving, fun-filled, joyous, blessed Easter right from the bottom of my heart. You know, in my family is going to be a lot of noise, a lot of food, a lot of candy, a lot of chocolates. I hope the same in your household too. God bless you all. Have a joyous Easter.
With the stars and stripes and the eagle fly.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.